Welcome back to the deep dive. So let's talk about a familiar headache for anyone working with automation.
Oh, I think I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, you have these processes that rely on static rules, right? Things like department codes or approval thresholds, fixed pricing,
All that stuff that's supposed to be stable.
supposed to be. And then you have to update one of those rules, and suddenly you're worried about breaking the entire workflow.
Because hard coding those variables is just, well, it's brittle. It's not a sustainable way to run things. You need a central brain.
A central brain, I like that. And that's really what we're here to talk about.
Exactly. For anyone using Laserfiche Cloud Process Automation, that brain is the lookup table.
So our mission today is to really unpack this. We're going to go through the steps to create and use a lookup table from something as basic as a spreadsheet or a CSV file.
But more than just the how-to, we're diving into the critical rules, the things you have to get right to keep it all running smoothly.
The integrity checks.
Yeah.
Because that's what stops your automation from collapsing the second the data changes.
These tables are absolutely foundational. I mean, they're the source of truth for your workflows. They guide the process. And maybe most importantly for users, they populate choices in forms through dynamic fields.
Right.
But we should say, right up front, this is a feature for certain tiers. We're talking professional and business subscriptions. The limits will scale up, but the core ideas, the data integrity principles, they're the same for everyone.
Okay, let's start there then, on that foundation. Why does something that sounds as simple as a lookup table have such high stakes if you manage it poorly?
Well, the first thing is we have to stop thinking of it as just a spreadsheet you've uploaded. It's not.
It's configuration data.
Exactly. It's configuration data. Its whole job is to be a static data source for process automation. It's really best for information that's reliable, that changes infrequently.
So things like tax codes, regional abbreviations, cost centers.
Perfect examples. If your data is changing every second, you need a different tool. This is for the stable stuff.
But this is where it gets really interesting for me, because in the real world, infrequently still means eventually.
It does.
That department code is going to change, that price list will get updated. So what happens then? Because it sounds like there's a huge operational risk here.
There is a huge one, because the most common way to create and update these is by uploading a local file, like your CSV.
Okay.
And any update you do is manual. And here's the danger. It's a full-scale replacement. It completely overwrites the existing data.
It's not just adding a row or changing a value.
No, it's not a patch. It's a nuclear option. If you upload the wrong file or a file with a tiny structural error, you've just corrupted the brain of your active automation.
Wow. So we're treating this less like a live database and more like a critical system file.
That's a great way to put it.
Which brings us to the core technical rule. If I have to update my table, what is the one single non-negotiable thing I have to get right with that new file?
Consistency. It's all about consistency. You must maintain the exact same columns and data types as the original.
Can you give us an example of how that could go wrong?
Oh, easily. Let's say your original table has a column called price, and it's defined as a number, maybe an integer or a decimal.
Right, you need to do math on it later.
Exactly. A workflow needs to run calculations. Now, say in your new CSV file, that column accidentally gets saved as a text field. Even if the numbers look the same to you, the system sees them as just strings of characters.
And you've just broken the lookup rules.
You've broken the lookup rules.
So what does that actually look like in practice? Does the whole workflow just stop with a big red error message?
Sometimes. But the worst case is when it fails silently.
Oh, that's dangerous.
It is. If that data type changed, a downstream workflow that's trying to calculate a total based on price might just fail on that step. Or it might skip it, misroute an invoice, approve a purchase for the wrong amount.
So you're not getting technical errors, you're getting wrong business outcomes.
That's it, exactly. And that's why that consistency is like a firewall for your automation.
That really drives the point home. Okay, so this is clearly powerful stuff, which means we need to talk about access. You can't have just anyone uploading a new price list. Who's the gatekeeper?
The gatekeeper is the process administrator. The ability to manage these tables is an elevated privilege. It's tied directly to the process automation tools.
So it's a specific designation for a user.
It is, and it's really about governance. When you go into the account and user settings and you elevate someone to be a process administrator, you're not just flipping a switch.
You're handing over the keys.
You're handing over the keys to the automation kingdom. You're giving them the power to fundamentally alter how your business processes run. A simple mistake in there can have massive cascading consequences.
Understood. Okay, so let's say I'm that person. I have the keys. I'm ready to build. Where do I go? What's the hub for this?
All right, so you're logged in. You start with the app picker in the top right
The
corner.
little grid of 9 dots.
Yep, that's the one. From there, you navigate to Process Automation and then click on Overview.
Okay, into the automation environment.
And right there on the Overview page, you'll see a column in the middle labeled Tools. Inside that column, you click Data Management. That's your home base.
Data management. Got it. Now it's time to upload my file. What are the rules for the file itself?
Okay, so you click New, then Lookup Tables. First thing it asks for is a name. Rule number 1. The name has to be descriptive, and this is critical, no spaces.
Use underscores or camel case instead.
Exactly. Underscores are great. No spaces. It just makes life easier for the back-end queries later. Then you choose your file. Rule number 2, and this is another big one. The very first row of your spreadsheet must be the column names.
Because that's how Laserfiche defines the structure of the table.
Precisely. If that first row is actual data, the system thinks your first customer's name is the column header, and the whole thing is broken from the start.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, so I've chosen my file. Now I see these configuration options, these 3 checkboxes. This seems like where you get to control how the table behaves. Let's start with the first one.
Enable for dynamic fields. This is probably the most common reason people build these tables.
This lets you use the table data in forms, right?
Yep. You check this box, and you can source things like drop-down lists or choice controls in your Laserfiche forms directly from this table.
And the benefit there isn't just that it's convenient. It's about data quality, isn't it?
It's all about data quality and governance. Think about it. If a user have to type a department name, you're going to get typos, abbreviations, 20 different versions of the same thing.
Right.
But if they're picking from a drop-down list sourced from your official table, the data is perfect every single time. It locks down uniformity right at the point of capture.
Love it. Okay, option 2. Read-only access to data. It sounds like a safety switch.
It's exactly that, a safety switch. If you check this, you are saying this table is for reference only. No workflow, no process. Nobody can run a query to insert, update, or delete data from this table.
So this is for your really critical static data, like tax rates.
Perfect. Tax rates should never be changed by an automated process. They should only be updated when an administrator manually uploads a whole new file. This checkbox is your automation security lock.
And the final one, which seems really useful for messy data, preserve white space. What happens if I don't check this?
If you leave it unchecked, which is generally what we'd recommend, Laserfiche does this fantastic little cleanup for you.
Oh.
Yeah, it automatically trims any blank spaces from the beginning or end of the text in a cell. Even better, it normalizes internal spaces. So if someone accidentally typed Acme Core with 3 spaces in the middle,
It fixes it to just 1.
it fixes it to 1. And that prevents your queries from failing just because of a spacing error. It's a huge help for data consistency.
That's incredibly valuable. Okay, so we've set our options. We click Next, and we get to the verification step. What am I looking for on this screen?
This is your last chance to catch an error before you commit. The system shows you a preview of your data. You need to check 2 things. First, does the content look right?
Obvious enough.
Second, and this is crucial, did Laserfiche guess the data type for each column correctly? It'll look at the first few rows and decide if a column is text, number, date, and so on. If it guessed wrong, if it thinks your price column is text, you have to fix it right there before you press create.
Or else your calculations will fail later.
Exactly.
Okay, so we create the table. It's live. Now, what about managing it? We talked about the risk of losing that original source file on someone's local computer. Is there a backup option?
Yes, there's immediate data recovery built in. When you're looking at the table, you'll see an update button, which is the overwrite function we talked about. But there's also a download button.
That just gives me a copy.
It gives you a perfect, clean CSV file of the table's current contents, zipped up. It means the version that is currently powering all your automation is always recoverable.
That's fantastic peace of mind. Okay, we have built a secure, reliable table. Now for the payoff. Let's talk about putting it to work. The whole point is running queries, right?
That's the whole point. The data isn't just sitting there, it's waiting for you to ask it questions and give it instructions. You can run a query in a workflow, for example, to make a rating decision.
Like if the vendor code I look up has a high priority flag, send the invoice to the VP.
That's a perfect use case. Or you can use a query to display information on a form for a user. look up the correct approval threshold based on the dollar amount they just entered.
So let's get into building those queries. This is where the real power is. If I'm looking at my table, how do I start?
You'll see a blue link that says Create a Lookup Table Query. You click that, and it opens up a dialog box. This is your command center.
And it's not just for looking things up.
No, not at all. You can configure 4 main actions: select, insert, update, or delete.
And this is where that read-only checkbox from earlier becomes so important.
Right. If you check that box, you can only do select queries. If you didn't, you've opened up the other 3.
Okay, so let's talk about the difference between a select and an update query.
A select is the basic lookup. Show me the department name for ID 400. The workflow gets that information and moves on. An update query, on the other hand, changes the data in the table.
This is for tracking status, right?
It's perfect for it. Imagine a lookup table of all your active projects. A workflow could run an update query to change the status column for a specific project from pending to in progress right after a form is submitted.
So I could have, say, a lookup table for company assets. When someone checks one out via a form, the workflow could run an UPDate query to change the available column from yes to no.
Precisely. You've just built an active, centralized status management system inside a tool that many people think is just for static data.
And you can even add or remove rows entirely with insert and delete.
You can. A workflow could add a new project record or delete an old, obsolete one, all triggered by some other business process. And that power is why the process administrator role and that read-only checkbox are just so critical. They control who and what can make those powerful changes.
This has really shifted my whole view of the lookup table.
Yeah.
It's not just a simple repository. It's a dynamic, critical piece of your automation governance.
It really is.
So to summarize the immediate benefit here, lookup tables are really the best way to get centralized decision-making logic into your workflows and to standardize your data entry using dynamic fields.
And if we step back and look at the bigger picture, the reliability of this entire powerful cloud-based system, it's all directly tied to how well you manage that data outside of the cloud.
That original source file.
Yeah, that humble little CSV file. Given that every manual update requires you to be so vigilant to maintain the exact same columns and data types, and knowing that one mistake can silently break your business rules downstream,
It really puts a responsibility on the user.
it does. And it brings up an important question for you to think about. Where in your organization is the process for managing this kind of static data strong enough? Where is that source file's structure stable enough that you can confidently rely on this method without, needing an administrator to double check every single update? The power is immense, but the maintenance responsibility, that stays firmly on your shoulders. My advice: start with the data sources you trust the most.